Welcome to Unleash Your Audacious Confidence on Win-Win Women TV. This show is all about sharing the tips, tools, and techniques that will allow you to step boldly in the direction of your dreams despite your feelings, fears, or past failures. To imagine what's possible for yourself and live the life you deserve. Well, hello, and welcome to this episode of Unleash Your Audacious Confidence here on Win-Win Women TV. I'm your host, Alicia Couri, and I'm so excited to have you join us here today on Win-Win Women TV. And just a couple housekeeping things before I get into the content of today's show is for you to check out our website, redcarpetceo.com. And when you go there, you'll see a list of all our shows and what we have coming up for you. If you've missed anything, there are direct links to our shows, and they're all listed there on our YouTube channel, which is under my name, Alicia Couri. So you can check us out on YouTube as well. If you'd like to become a show host here on Win-Win Women, you have that opportunity. If you're watching me and you're thinking, oh, I could do that. If she could do that, I could do that. Then go on and check out. If you scroll up, you'll see the logo of Win-Win Women, and you can click on that and sign up to be a host of your own show here on the Win-Win Women Network, which is a global network for women by women. And I invite you to check that out. So today on the show, Unleash Your Audacious Confidence, I had an amazing guest that was going to join us, Dr. Daphne Clark-Hudson. Unfortunately, she had an emergency and she was unable to join us today. So you got me. And today we're going to talk about Speak Life. We had a little shift in our content, so we're going to talk today about speaking life. And so I'm excited to do that. To share that with you, because it's something that I've recognized in my own life that has worked when I do it. I don't always do it, but it has worked when I do it. And I forget that that's what I need to do when sometimes situations and circumstances aren't necessarily going in the direction that I had anticipated or I wanted to. And then when I hear myself speaking and what I'm speaking into it, I realize that I'm not speaking life into it. I'm actually speaking death. Now, this is not going to be a sermon. I'm not here to give you a sermon or anything, but I am going to point to certain scriptures that have helped me in my life, that have validated this concept of speaking life. But I want to talk to you about it from the mindset perspective, from the spiritual perspective, and from the laws of the universe perspective. If you've checked out any of my content in the past, if you look at any of the shows, I bring in always those elements, the mindset element, the spiritual element, and the laws of the universe, the element of the natural laws, to understand the world that we live in, how we're actually functioning in this world, how can we gain confidence in ourselves and in the things that we're doing. And it's through these filters and shifting our belief and our mindset that we're able to actually boost our confidence. So let's look at speaking life, really manifesting through your words. And I'll share some examples from my own life. But how do we really look at our challenges? There's a law of relativity. So the law of relativity is that everything is relative to something else, right? You heard that proverb. I complained about not having any shoes until I met a man with no feet. That's the law of relativity. Sometimes we're complaining about something, or we're seeing something in a certain way, and the words that we're saying, we're really catastrophizing the situation when we're not looking at it through the lens of the laws of relativity, and using gratitude in the way that we speak to kind of impose change on it. I had a situation where I had two really rough pregnancies. I mean, my experiences being pregnant was really, really hard. And I wanted another child. I had two girls, and I really wanted a son. I had a desire. I don't want to say I really wanted. I had a deep desire for a son. I'm not quite sure why I had this desire to have a son, but it was something that was really like I couldn't let it go. But I wasn't sure I was able to go through that experience again. And because I had this deep desire, I had a name for him. So when I found out I was pregnant with, when I found out my second child that I was pregnant with was a girl, that's when I started believing for a son. After this, like after this pregnancy, I'm going to have another child. I'm going to have a boy. And the words that I started speaking, I started proclaiming him into being right from even when I was pregnant with my second daughter. I started speaking my son into existence and verbalizing it and speaking it out. And this is where the Bible came into place, because, you know, the word says, the words that I speak, this is when Jesus was talking, the words that I speak, they are spirit and they are life. Our words, the Bible says, death and life are in the power of the tongue. And he who speaks, I think it says, eats the fruit thereof. So I started speaking life to this boy, this child. He had a name. His name was Elijah. I gave him a name, and I started talking about Elijah. And then I had other people talking about Elijah as if he was already in existence in our family. He became a part of our family. He was a part of our conversations, not in the future, but in the now. And it took 5 years, roughly 5 years, for that to actually manifest, for him to manifest in physical being with us. But we were speaking him into life that whole time. In fact, there's an incident of when my daughter, the one I was pregnant when I started speaking about him, in pre-kindergarten, she drew a picture of her family. They had to draw pictures of their family, and she drew 5 of us, but there were only 4 of us. But she drew 5 of us in the picture, and the teacher asked her who was. She drew like a little teeny stick person. You know, everybody else with various sizes of stick people with long hair, and there's this little teeny round stick person. And the teacher asked who that was, and she said, it's Elijah. And the teacher's like, Elijah, is your mom pregnant? She's like, no, but Elijah's coming. So that's the extent to how much of a reality he was in our family. And so we spoke life into him. We spoke life to that situation, because I had a lot of fear and a lot of anxiety around getting pregnant again, because the first 2 pregnancies were really difficult for me. And just gathering enough strength to possibly go through that a 3rd time was really, really hard for me to think about and conceptualize. So instead of thinking about how rough the going would be and how rough it was, I thought about Elijah, and then I spoke him into existence. And so, you know, we have that ability as a speaking spirit to do that. That's how the world was created. It was through God speaking, and God said, and God said, and God said. And the way the laws of the universe have been set up. So we all know gravity is a law. Gravity exists. No matter how much we might want to think or work against gravity, it is imposing itself upon you every single moment of every single day. We're not floating up into the air. What goes up comes down. We are being imposed. Gravity is being imposed on us every single day. And so that's how these laws work, these spiritual laws. So when we look at the law of energy, transmutation of energy, and I'm getting back to speaking life. When we speak words, the words, they are energy, and they go out and they manifest what it is we're speaking. Now, a lot of times people speak something, and then in that same breath, they reverse what they say. So they might say something, and then there's a but, or there's something that counteracts what they're saying. And then it's so subconscious. And then it'll turn around and say, but I do speak life, but it never happens. It never comes to pass. It doesn't, no matter how much I say that, I keep saying that, but it doesn't work. You've just negated, you've just kind of blocked that energy from going out and actually accomplishing that which you set it out to do. So we have to be very, very vigilant of the words that we're speaking and how we're saying it. Because unintentionally, you could be kind of canceling out the thing that you say. When we look at frequency, vibration, the law of vibration, the law of, the law of vibration, I'll go to vibration, then I'll talk about frequency. The law of vibration is, everything is vibrating, right? Everything has a vibration. And so we have to get in alignment with the vibration of the thing that we're speaking life into. So, and I'll use the example of Elijah again. I do have other examples, but for right now, I'll use the example of Elijah since I brought him into this conversation. Although I had fear of having to go through 36 weeks of difficulty, I mean, every single day, every moment of every single day was challenging in my previous 2 pregnancies. Every single day. I couldn't sleep through the night. Every day I was sick. And so if I had any opportunity to dwell on that reality while believing for Elijah's existence and speaking it out, and in any moment, the words that came out of my mouth were against Elijah's manifestation or him coming to pass, he would not have been there. He would not have showed up. I even remember when I did get pregnant with him, I had a moment that I was so sick one day. I was so sick. I was crying and I was begging and I was pleading and I was so sick. I was laying in my bed and I was crying, and I called a friend to pray with me because I was so sick. And I had this thought that I don't know that I can go through this again. It was very early in the pregnancy. I think I was about 6 or 8 weeks pregnant. And I thought about how long I'm going to be like this every single day for the next 30 weeks. Because I'll tell you, the saving grace for me is all my children came at 36 weeks. So I'm thankful. They didn't come at 40 weeks, 41, 42. They came at 36 weeks. So I was looking at another 30 weeks or, somewhere around there of feeling like this every single day. And I had a thought, but it didn't come out of my mouth. I had a thought, I cannot do this. I don't know that I can do this. I don't know that I can go through with this. I don't know that I can have this baby. I don't know I can have this child. I don't know how. I don't know what I'm going to do. And then the next thought behind that was, but you've been believing so long for this moment. Do not abandon your faith now. In the midst of that excruciating pain that I was in, I had enough sense not to let those words come out of my mouth. Had enough sense to keep my mouth shut in that moment. And as a matter of fact, several weeks later, I started spotting, if you know anything about pregnancy, and I started spotting, I started seeing blood, and I went to the doctor because I thought back to that moment when I thought, oh, I can't go through with this. And I went to the doctor, and what I had was placenta previa. It's where the placenta starts growing over the cervix. And so the placenta had moved over the cervix, and, you know, they ordered me on bed rest, which was pretty much where I was anyway, because there wasn't much I could do in the state that I was in when I was pregnant, but I had to be on bed rest. And I remembered I prayed for that placenta, and I spoke out my prayers, and I commanded that placenta to move away from the cervix where it was and move into position where it needed to be. I think I was like 20 something weeks along when that happened. So by the next visit, I went to the doctor. It had completely moved and was all the way up to the almost the top of my tummy. So it made a drastic move. But again, the words that I spoke, the words that you speak have power and they have life in them. And so when we talk about things, we have to be very careful that we're not sending curses out that we didn't intend. We need to be sending blessings out. And I'm saying these words and I'm thinking to myself, did I do anything today that, you know, because when you teach these things, you also are a student of yourself. And I'm hearing this stuff and I'm thinking, how did I live today? You know, did I live my words today? As I was driving home today from an appointment I had, I thought about an event because someone asked me a question. I'm headed to speak at an event shortly. I'm hopping on a plane and flying to go speak at an event. And someone asked me, what do I want as the outcome of this event? And I started telling them what I want as the outcome from this event. I started speaking that out. And I remembered an event I spoke at not too long ago. And the words that I was saying was, I just need to close one client out of this event for it to be worth my while. I just need one client, just one. I just need one client and for it to be worth my while. Because the event itself was, again, looking at the law of relativity, it wasn't what we expected. It did not match our expectation. It did not match the sales pitch that we got. It did not match what we were hoping to show up there. But I kept saying, I need to close at least one client from this event. Well, I closed one client from that event and just one client from that event. I had several prospects, but I closed only one client. So as I was driving today, I was thinking about that and I thought, wait a second. And I didn't even intend to speak on this today because I had someone else that was going to come and talk about longevity and following your passion, your purpose. But look how I'm able to now connect the dots with what I said coming out of that, going into and coming out of that event, the last one, and the mind shift that I've made for the next event, because I am not looking to sign one client out of that next event. I said, I'm leaving there with 10 clients signed. I am going to sign 10 clients out of that event. 10 clients. That's my goal. That's what I'm going to get. And that's what I'm speaking. That's what I'm speaking in life. I am I'm 10xing my efforts. I had 10 clients out of that event that I'm flying over there to speak at, because I realized how powerful it was just on my drive today. I'm like, wow, I said that. And I remember I said it over and over and over and over again. And I celebrated that one client. I so celebrated that one client. I told everybody, oh my God, you can't believe you won't believe this. I did sign up one client. I'm so excited. And I'm excited for the client that we get to work together, because we can definitely make a tremendous impact in their organization, in what they're trying to accomplish. And I celebrated this client, and then I thought, why did I limit myself to just one client? I should have been speaking more. So that's the power of what you say, what you speak over and over and over again, and how it can create the reality of what you're living in. But it's not just the words that you're speaking. You have to examine, and this is where not just the spirit, but your mindset comes into play. Because you have to examine your beliefs around what you're saying. Do you really believe that you can have what you're saying you can have? What are the limitations you're putting on yourself in your beliefs? When I was pregnant with my second child, I knew I could get pregnant. So that was a given. I didn't have a challenge in that, and the belief there. So the words that I was speaking, and I had built myself up spiritually enough to understand that I can speak a son into existence, because there is evidence, there is proof in the word, in the Bible, of women who believed for sons, and God granted them their wish, their desire, the desire of their heart. So I knew that I could believe for a son, and it wasn't out of the realm of possibility. I wasn't doing something that wasn't done before. I was actually doing exactly what the word says. It says to be specific, to ask what you want, but be specific in your ask. And I kept saying and kept saying and kept saying, and it was lined up with what I was believing, and nobody could talk me out of believing for a son. People tried. Let me tell you, so many people tried when I said it, and they were like, you can't believe for that. You know, like, that's random. Births are random. You know, the sex is random. You can't, no, you can't do that. And then I had one woman tell me, oh, I believe, you know, I was pregnant, and everybody said the way I was carrying was a boy. I believed it was a boy, but turned out it was a girl. I'm like, but that's not what I'm doing. I was like, I didn't say after I got pregnant that I'm having a boy. This was set up years before I got pregnant. So again, your belief in what you're saying has to be congruent. So you have to believe it, and you have to be able to speak it with confidence, knowing that this is exactly what's going to come to pass. And you can start small. Start with something small and gather the evidence of it. I used to, when I would go shopping, I would go to the grocery store. Before I left home, I would speak a good parking spot right in front. I want that front parking spot when I get there. I had little babies. I wanted to spot, and this is before they started, well, over here in the United States, they give you a parking pass for a stroller parking pass. So this is before stroller parking passes. And I would say, I want a front spot to park so I can go into the store with this baby's, come back out. And I gathered evidence that I can pray and believe and say that, and I would get a parking spot someone would be pulling out, or a parking spot would be right there available as I'm driving up. So start small with little things and build up your belief and build up the way that you're speaking, and start training yourself to speak life into things, and then gather the evidence and then celebrate that evidence. Have gratitude and celebrate it, because in the celebration, it's the confirmation, and it perpetuates itself. So celebrate those things, and that really helps build your confidence in what you're doing and what you're saying and how you're believing about it. Let me see. I did write down a few notes to make sure that I was covering what I wanted to say. Oh, yeah. So there are a couple other examples that I have. One is, and I tell this story several times in some of these other shows, but for a completely different reason. I tell this story of meeting Gary Marshall. He was someone that I had always wanted to meet. He's a writer, director, actor, producer. He was just a phenomenal talent. And at the time, I was writing screenplays, and I really wanted to meet him. And I went to an event in Las Vegas, and this is back in 2000 or 2001. I went to an event in Las Vegas, and he was being honored at an awards gala. And before I left home to go to this event, I said, I am going to meet Gary Marshall. I'm going to meet Gary Marshall. I'm going to meet Gary Marshall. And all while I was there, and I told people while I was there that I was going to meet him. This is so great. And I said, I am going to meet Gary Marshall. And I told them, this is my prayer. And I told them what my prayer was, that, and I showed them, and these were a couple of women that I had connected with there at the event. And they're like, yeah, that's great. One of the nights that we were there was the awards banquet that they were going to honor him. And when we all walked into the awards banquet, I was looking for my seat. They had our names on the seats. And I walked up to the head table, and my name was right next to Gary Marshall. Like, I was like, what? This is crazy. I sat next to Gary Marshall the entire night, and he and I were talking like we were buddies from forever. I said, and I spoke it out for weeks before I got there. And then while I was there, I kept saying it, and I kept saying it. And I went to everything that he was speaking up on the stage, and I sat in the audience, and I watched, and I said, I'm going to meet him. I'm going to talk to him. And what better opportunity than sitting right next to him for a 3-hour dinner, an awards presentation, And just to round this out, I got just a minute left. There's a story in the Bible of a woman with an issue of blood, and she was believing for her healing, and she heard about Jesus. And so if you've never heard this story, she kept saying, if I can only touch the hem of his garment, if I can only touch the hem of his garment, I'll be made whole. If I can only touch. And she pressed in, and there's a lot of history behind women who have this kind of condition even being out in public. She could have been stoned to death, but touching a rabbi, touching a teacher, touching anyone in the crowd, that was forbidden. But she determined, she pressed through the crowd, and she touched the hem of his garment with her faith, and she was healed completely of her disease. And so, speaking the words that you need to speak can confirm and bring into reality the thing that you desire for yourself. And with that, I want to encourage you to be bold, be brave, and every day speak words of life to yourself and to your situation, and step out with audacious confidence. I will see you next time on another episode of Unleash Your Audacious Confidence here on Win Win Women. If you're in the studio audience, don't go anywhere. Let's have a conversation. All right.